Kids are back in class, and parents trust schools have hired the best educators to teach them and keep them safe. It's an important issue statewide, from the campus to the Capitol, and we're diving into it this morning on a special investigative edition of State of Texas In Depth. Hello, I'm Josh Hinkle, and today our Brian Collister reveals teachers with hidden histories are moving from district to district without anyone fully checking their questionable backgrounds.
A public school employee's personnel file is public information for anyone who wants to see it. This file contains all sorts of information, including problems with that employee. But we've learned that most school districts never request this public information when hiring.
Come on, accelerate!
Once a well-respected McNeil High School track coach and a popular teacher in the Round Rock School District.
Mr. Cotton.
Christopher Cotton's career in education is likely now over as he faces criminal charges. He had nothing to say to KXAN as he left a recent Williamson County court hearing.
We're very hurt. You know, I'm just as angry at them as the defendant. I'm angry at the school district.
But outside the courthouse, the grandfather of his alleged victim says the district should have done its homework before hiring Cotton.
I hope that the school district wakes up, because this is wrong and something needs to be done about it.
The 16-year-old girl told police Cotton kissed her and sent her inappropriate texts, including nude pictures of himself.
Mr. Cotton, did you have an inappropriate relationship with a student?
But Round Rock wasn't the first sign of trouble. KXAN discovered Austin ISD fired him in 2000 for sending inappropriate emails to a female student. Soon after, though, Pflugerville ISD hired him, and then he went to work at Round Rock ISD in 2004. Both of those districts tell us they did not know AISD had fired Cotton or why. When you hire a teacher or someone that's going to be in a school with children, don't you want to know everything about them?
We want to know as much as we possibly can.
In fact, our investigation found neither district requested a copy of this, Cotton's personnel file at AISD. If they had, they would have seen this letter written by the principal at Stephen F. Austin High School, which says Cotton had been engaging inappropriately with a female student, a 9th grader. Cotton had sent her an email described as highly inappropriate for a teacher and a student. We obtained the letter by simply filing a public information request for Cotton's entire personnel file. If you'd requested Christopher Cotton's personnel file from AISD, this letter would have been in there. And it talks about the inappropriate relationship he had. Would you have hired him if you'd seen this letter?
I don't know if that letter would have been in his personnel file.
It was. It's in the personnel file that we got under the Public Information Act.
Okay.
At Pflugerville ISD, the head of human resources says it's not standard procedure among school districts to request personnel files.
The personnel file is voluminous and often does not have information of concern in it.
This is a letter that was in Christopher Cotton's personnel file, and this district never asked for it. Why wouldn't you want to see something like this?
I can't speak to the procedures that were going on in hiring back then. I cannot speak to those procedures. What I can do is tell you that I have looked back and saw that Pflugerville ISD followed appropriate procedures. 3 references were contacted in Austin ISD, and 3 good references were given for Mr. Cotton.
Would you have hired somebody with this letter if you had read it?
No, absolutely not.
Pflugerville says it did what the law requires, a criminal background check and verification of a valid teaching certificate. But you still don't ask for a personnel file.
We do not ask for the personnel file.
Because she says it would slow down the hiring process.
That's a lousy excuse. You know, it's a denial of their responsibility, and it's just flat out wrong.
But even if a school district does request a personnel file, we've discovered many school districts are actually hiding information that should be in these files, meaning a teacher with a troubled past could still wind up in your child's classroom. Brian Collister, KXAN Investigates.
Thank you, Brian. Districts must report employees to the state only in the most serious cases, including abuse, sexual contact with a student, drugs, or stealing money from the district. Anything less serious, the district can handle on its own and simply document it in that employee's personnel file. Remember, your teacher's personnel file is public information. On KXAN.com, we've got an explanation of the steps for making that request. First, KXAN discovered teachers with questionable pasts bouncing from district to district. Now, we investigate why some schools are even hiding some information about some teachers' history. Coming up on this special investigative edition of State of Texas In Depth.
We fully want to support our teachers, but the administration has to thoroughly check whoever they're hiring, because these incidents, they affect children for a lifetime.
Earlier, KXAN explored the case of Christopher Cotton, a Central Texas coach and teacher now facing criminal charges for inappropriate behavior with a student. He bounced from district to district to district, with school officials failing to fully check his questionable background by asking for his personnel records. Welcome back to this special investigative edition of State of Texas In Depth. Beyond background issues, KXAN investigator Brian Collister discovered some school districts are hiding negative information from future employers, meaning some bad teachers could still end up in your child's classroom.
When there's trouble with a teacher, we've discovered school districts are striking a deal. If the teacher resigns, the school district agrees to keep it quiet, even taking records about their problem out of their personnel file and putting it in a secret, confidential file, making it difficult for any other school districts to ever find out what happened.
It is more efficient and it's more effective actually on the part of the district as far as moving things forward.
To find out why districts are doing this, we talked to the second largest district in the Austin area, Round Rock ISD. It's entered into more than 20 of these agreements since 2010. The district's head of HR says they're sometimes necessary to get teachers out of the classroom or spare the district an expensive legal battle. In each case, they only provide potential employers what's called a neutral reference, only confirming they once worked there.
When we give a neutral reference, that's exactly what it is, a neutral reference.
But you also take the records out of the personnel file. So you're making it very hard for that other district to find out the problems with that educator. Why would you do that?
Because it's part of the agreement.
We discovered every school district across Central Texas is using these agreements, including San Marcos ISD, which fired a principal for misconduct. Pflugerville ISD fired a teacher not making the grade in the classroom. And Round Rock ISD fired a teacher who hit a student. All of those kept quiet, and many of those teachers can now be working in new districts. If a school district does their due diligence and they ask for a personnel file and you've taken the records out of the personnel file, doesn't that sort of make it hard for them to find out what the problem is with that teacher if there is one?
Not necessarily, but
it says it right here in the agreement. It's going to be in a confidential file.
The intent is not to make it more difficult. The intent is to get sure the best teachers that we have available in the district are available for our kids, and that if teachers don't need to be there in our particular setting or our particular classroom, that we get them out as quickly as we can.
State Representative Tony Dale's district covers part of Austin, Pflugerville, and Round Rock school districts.
I think being able to set things aside, especially when a school district knows that something actually occurred that was detrimental to the learning environment, to the students, or maybe to the financial health of the school district, it's just really hard to believe that there's separate files that can be put out there.
This past legislative session, Dale helped strengthen types of misconduct districts are required to report to the state and police. Dale was unaware districts are using these agreements.
I don't know the history of how these files came about or the way these contracts are written that allow these things to be put off to the side, but it's certainly something that I've got an interest in, and we're going to take a look at it.
This week, Representative Dale asked lawmakers to study this problem. We'll let you know what happens. Brian Collister, KXAN Investigates.
Thanks, Brian. The records in Brian's story are public information by law, but since they're in a confidential file, you'll have to know exactly what to ask for. Want to check your child's teacher? Go to KXAN.com and we'll walk you through the process. And coming up, our roundtable breaks down these concerns with teacher backgrounds. Representative Tony Dale himself, Morgan Smith from our media partner, the Texas Tribune, and our own investigator, Brian Collister.